Bilbo, have you heard the great news? Will be featured in the next retro replay. Thousands of people can hear about your adventure. I thought this might happen. Somebody get me the adrenaline shot. The Hobbit is an action-adventure platformer from 2003, developed by Inevitable Entertainment, published by Sierra Entertainment, and distributed by Vivendi Universal Games. It was released on a whole heap of platforms, but I will be talking about the PlayStation 2 version. The game is a licensed adaptation of Tolkien's 1937 novel, The Hobbit, which, for those of you who don't know, is the book that precedes his most famous work, The Lord of the Rings. It should also go without saying that this game came out a decade before Peter Jackson's Hobbit movie trilogy, so there are no similarities there. The dwarves simply don't have sex appeal in this version. The Hobbit and I have quite some history together. This is among the first games I ever played, as back when I got my PlayStation 2, which was my first console, which I guess was in the early 2000s, it came bundled with the game Jak 2 Renegade, but my parents deemed it too violent for me, so they made me trade it in at GameStop, where I got the option to trade it in for 2 used games. My first pick was Bionicle, the video game, and my second pick was The Hobbit. I did play Jak 2 years later, and it's become one of my favorite games since, but this episode is dedicated to our dear friend Bilbo. The Hobbit is about Bilbo Baggins' epic journey from the comfort of his home in the Shire to the misty mountains cold, where the dragon Smaug resides. Smaug has driven the dwarves from their home in the mountain and now slumbers atop the heaps of gold and treasure they had accumulated over the years. Bilbo travels in the company of 13 dwarves and a wizard, and the game follows their arduous journey through the land of Middle-earth. The game is played from a third-person perspective and is primarily a platform game, but has some elements of hack-and-slash combat to it. You progress through the game by completing levels, and each level comes with a list of quests to finish. Some of these quests are mandatory, like how you must meet up with the dwarves at the inn before you can leave the Shire. But many levels also come with optional quests and content, and doing these will award Bilbo with items and currency that can help him on his travels. The levels are tied together by cutscenes, which either come in the form of a storybook with a dope narrator.
He regretted leaving home almost immediately. In the dangerous Lonelands, they found themselves cold, wet, and low on food.
Or CGI cutscenes. Even when playing through now in 2016, I got the occasional goosebumps from the cinematic sections, where the music really helps the fantasy come alive. Bilbo's health consists of these little health bubbles up here, and to get an additional bubble, he has to gather 1000 courage points. Courage points come in the form of diamonds, and might remind you of rupees from the Legend of Zelda games, but these can't be used as currency. The bigger the diamond, the more experience you will acquire. There's a set number of these on each level, and they're often obtained in bulk in secret areas or when completing quests. What kind of quests, you ask?
Hey Bilbo! Wanna play some hide and seek?
I'm afraid I'm in a bit of a hurry.
We'll go hide, you seek. Ready? Go!
Children.
How did you find me?
I looked up a walkthrough, kid. There's another collectible in the game, and that is silver pennies. And this currency always struck me as odd, because Bilbo proclaims early on that...
What's this? My pocket has sprouted a hole. Oh, my silver pennies must be scattered all over Hobbiton.
So finding his silver pennies around the Shire, I suppose, is logical. I guess hobbits are just really honest people. But why do I find said silver pennies on the other side of Middle-earth? Are they still his? Is there another hobbit out there with even bigger holes in his pockets? Where are they coming from, and why is nobody picking them up? The Hobbit took me over a year to complete as a kid. This was in the age before I knew about online walkthroughs, and all I really had to rely on was my own intellect and my mom's advice. I remember that during the second chapter you come across 3 trolls, William, Bert, and Tom, and they are arguing because they want something to eat, but Bilbo decides he's gonna steal their pocketbook to prove what a burglar he is, and so you have to sneak past the trolls, and this section took me so many months to complete. I was stuck for so long, it was so difficult, so even to this day when I got to the trolls, I had memorized all their dialogue and all their noises, even though it had been 10 years since I last played it. So there were many moments in The Hobbit where I just got stuck, hardcore stuck for really, really long. But when I finally progressed from that point and I got out of the dark woods and stepped into this sunlit valley where I was tasked to find a treasure cave, it felt really good. When I was younger, I was quite naive and had a form of blissful ignorance when it came to the realities of what content was in the game itself. To show you an example of this, let's look at the start of chapter 1, where we find ourselves in Bilbo's cozy hobbit hole, and you have to go outside through the green door. But if you try to go through the orange door, Bilbo will say,
"No time for that, I need to go meet the dwarves at the Green Dragon Inn."
And for some reason, I thought that it would lead to Bilbo's backyard and there was a whole other level out there. In the opening cinematic for the game, you see the dwarves run through a forest, and I had it in my silly little head that that was right beyond the door, but I had to do some sort of objective to get through. And could I really be blamed? I mean, I was stuck on the troll chapter for so long that I would do anything to experience some new content. This thought persisted with me throughout the game, thinking every hill was mine to conquer and there was a secret level behind every locked door. The game instilled a sense of wonder and exploration in me, something that contrasts with my current view on games, which is often analytical or just plain cynical. It's a reminder of a carefree time, yet there are dark stains on my memory.
Who disturbs my rest?
The year was 2004. I was sitting in my living room playing through The Hobbit, and I had just gotten to the Mirkwood level. It's a gloomy and dangerous place, filled with poisonous spiders and undead that rise from the grave. I eventually came to a save station near the water's edge, and I was so relieved to see it. I jumped onto the pedestal and hit the save button. The game lets you keep multiple save files at once, but I wasn't the brightest kid and just kept overwriting my current file, and I was about to learn the error of my ways. I then exited the menu, and due to my poor positioning on the pedestal, Bilbo fell into the water as soon as the game was loaded, causing an infinite loop of deaths. There was no jumping away and no changing my trajectory in mid-air. I was stuck. So in the middle of this dark and hostile level, I was forced to watch Bilbo drown over and over for minutes on end, desperately rejecting the thought that I had to start the game all over again. It had taken me so many months to get to this point in the game, and it was all washed away. Bilbo wasn't the only one who felt suffocated on that day. Those of you who have seen the Hobbit movies or read the novels know that Bilbo comes across a ring in his travels. And this isn't just any old ring, this is the One Ring forged by Sauron himself. And it can turn Bilbo invisible, and it actually works in real life too. Sadly, this ring doesn't really help Bilbo out that much during the game's many puzzles and minigames. I like to think that my gaming skills have improved since I was a kid, but there were still things I struggled with playing through this as an adult. Particularly the little minigame you have to complete to open locked chests. At first glance it looks rather simple. You wait for the dial to hit the green area and press the X button. But you have a timer ticking down all the while, and for every misclick, it jumps ahead, giving you even less time. And if you run out of time or hit a red area, you will either get poisoned or take direct damage, just for failing to pick the lock of a chest. On the tougher chests, it's almost impossible to hit accurately due to the speed of the dial. By the time the green area is exposed, your brain has understood that and sent its signals to your thumb. It has already passed the green area, often to a red one. It forces you to click the button before it passes the green area, and the whole experience becomes very twitchy and uncomfortable. You are sometimes given chests like this for completing boss battles, and the reward for completing a boss fight should never be more difficult than the fight itself. There is also a lot of fetching items and solving puzzles in this game, and some of the puzzles are rather unique and cool. There's an entire level dedicated to them, where you're inside the lonely mountain trying to forge the key to access the treasure chamber. You must power up the mountain by solving several puzzles, including turning water pipes, pushing and aligning blocks to fit into the side of walls, and spelling out the name Erebor in dwarven ruins on the floor. But some of the puzzles in this game was so hard that I had to get help from my mom to complete them. Again, I didn't know about online walkthroughs, so if I was stuck, it meant I couldn't continue playing the game. And to this day, there is particularly one puzzle that still haunts my nightmares. I am of course talking about the Lake Town wine cellar puzzle. You arrive in Lake Town and must help Bard retrieve the Black Arrow from a gang of thieves. And I was pleasantly surprised when I heard Bard's voice as I realized where I knew his voice actor from.
From your description, that sounds like Bortan. I'll have to talk with him about these missing wine barrels.
It was the same guy who voiced the male Khajiits in Skyrim, and one of the big inspirations for my own Khajiit voice that I used during my series with Kijor. We eventually find out it's being kept in the thieves' hideout, what a shocker, and we must solve a seemingly simple puzzle to enter said location. It revolves around placing colored bottles in the correct slots, but the old thief who gives you the combination has forgotten the right order, so you can only give hints as to what bottles are where, and it's one of the video game quotes that will remain in my memory forever.
The combination escapes me in memory, but I do remember this. Yeller is to the left of red and blue, which is not next to black. Purple can only lie beside black and none else. Black is to the right of yeller. I regret I can't remember more.
So in an age of no online walkthroughs and the mind of a kid who has barely started school, this was tricky stuff. Keep in mind that English isn't my first language, and I didn't begin properly learning it until I was in the 3rd grade, and even then it was just colors and numbers. Even with the help of my mom, I just couldn't seem to get it right. But before I play the whole "I was just a kid" card too hard, I have to admit that I still struggle to complete it now, at the age of 20. I'm not proud of it, but I legitimately tried as hard as I could to complete the puzzle quickly. There was one sentence that seemed to trip me up back then, and it still did to this day, and that was the part where Malcolm said, "Yellow is to the left of red and blue, which is not next to black." So I assumed that red and blue couldn't touch black. But red is supposed to be next to black, it's just blue that couldn't touch. So because of this old fart being vague, I spent weeks and months on this one silly puzzle. The amount of traumatic experiences I've had to relive due to playing through the game again is... Ugh, why did I even do this? There's so many bad memories coming back to me. I can't even solve this simple challenge. I don't know why my dog wanted me to play this. Wait a minute. I don't even have a dog. Then who was that? Why would he put me through this? What is the meaning of putting me through this trial once again? Oh, I did it! Yay! The game itself has flaws for sure, but there are also a lot of great aspects to it. Let's have a listen to some of the music you can expect to hear throughout your adventure. So, to conclude, I can say that picking up this game as a kid was a good choice. The fantasy world it presented to me felt so real, and the music and cutscenes helped me immerse with it even more. While some of the objectives can be a little bit fetch questy and some of the puzzles aren't all that great, the overall experience I had with the game was very positive. It's not a masterpiece, but I feel that it's a solid addition to my game library. My final rating for this game is 10 dwarves out of 13. Now, let's see what kind of trouble I can get myself into with this ring, huh? See you on the next retro replay. Stay dark.